Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars. You're watching another one of my YouTube guitar building videos. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I hope that by the end of this video, I'll have earned the honor and privilege of your subscription. Okay, so the other day, my wife and I were sitting down to dinner, and as we often do, I went to the fridge and I grabbed one of those pre-packaged bags of salad. And while I was pouring the salad into our salad bowls, I asked my wife, who made this salad? And of course, she looked at me like I was out of my mind. And I continued. I said, you know, who grew the lettuce? Who picked it? Who chopped it up? Who chopped up the carrots and the radishes? Who mixed it all up in the bag, sealed it up? Who distributed it to the store where we purchased it? Well, of course, we don't know. And she continued to look at me like I was losing my mind, which is understandable. I have a tendency sometimes to go off on these tangents. Well, I pushed it even further and I said, you know, who built the table we're sitting at? Who built the chairs that we're sitting on? Who made the clothes that we're wearing? Our shoes? All the furniture and the appliances in our house? Our phones, our computers, our cars, our TVs. Who made all this stuff? I mean, we know the brands and we know where we purchased them, but we don't know the people who made them. And that's just the way life is in the 21st century, and it's been that way for quite some time. You know, if you go back and look at history 150, 200 years ago, people knew where their clothes were coming from. They knew who was making their shoes. They knew who was making the houses they lived in and the furniture that they owned. They knew where their food was coming from, who was growing it, because that's how the world was back in 150, 200 years ago. In fact, they were the original DIYers, the do-it-yourselfers. And if you couldn't DIY, you starved to death or you froze to death. That's just how life was then. But today, it's not that way anymore. Everything comes from factories all over the world, and we don't know who's actually making the stuff. And that's really no longer important to us anymore, because what is important to a lot of people are the brand names. You know, we like to show off the fancy brands that we buy when we can afford them. And we feel kind of embarrassed when we have to buy the no-name brands. So that's kind of the mindset of the world and how things are as the way we live today. Now, the interesting thing is we have the opportunity, although it seems like it's fairly rare, to buy things that are made by people whose names we can know, and we can know where they made these things and when. And one such item are the guitars that we build. Now, granted, you can purchase guitars from some of the big brands, and when you do that, you have no idea who actually built those guitars. I mean, if you do a lot of detailed research, you might be able to get some of that information, but most people won't. They're just satisfied having the brand name on the headstock. That's what's important to them. But when you think about it, if you're spending your hard-earned cash on a guitar that you're hoping is going to be your dream guitar, wouldn't it be kind of nice to know who made it and where it was made and when? I think that adds some value to whatever guitar you're purchasing. The reason I bring this up is because the other day I had the opportunity to pay a visit to Texas Toast Guitars. Now, Texas Toast Guitars is located in the north part of Denver. I'm in the south part of Denver, so it's about 40 miles away from where I live. And Matt, who owns Texas Toast, and I have talked a few times in the past, and we've thought about, it'd be great to kind of get together. We tried to a long time ago, but then COVID hit, and that kind of screwed things up. And just sort of forgot about it after that. But then recently, Matt and I connected through our comments on our videos. And then we started communicating via email, and then I called him up on the phone and said, hey, let's get together and do something. So he invited me up to his shop. And I went up there a few days ago and was invited to be a guest on his Thursday night live stream. I'll post a link up above to that live stream if you'd like to go back and check it out yourself. It was a lot of fun to do it, and I really enjoyed it. But I got there a couple of hours early, and that gave me a chance to kind of tour around their shop and, you know, check out their business and how things work. And it was an opportunity for me to share what my business is and how I got started in it. But as I was walking around the shop with Matt and Chris, several things, well, a couple of things occurred to me. First of all, they had a lot of guitars that are in various stages of construction, from, you know, just bodies that have just barely been cut out to completely finished guitars that are ready to ship. They're sold and ready to go. And as I was looking at these guitars, I was struck by the amazing quality of the craftsmanship. And I really felt good about that because, you know, one of the problems that you run into when you're dealing with small shop luthiers and guitar builders is sometimes the quality isn't always there. But I can tell you, with Texas Toast guitars, the quality was as good as it can get. In fact, as I was doing the live stream with Matt, Chris brought out a triple neck guitar that they built a couple of years ago for the Great Guitar Build-Off. And he let me hold on to it. And while I'm looking at this guitar, I don't know if you can tell in the video, and I know that probably Matt and Chris didn't realize it, but I was really inspecting that guitar, the quality. And I was looking at all the things that I typically look for when examining a guitar for craftsmanship quality. Things like how the neck is installed into the body, the distance between the walls of the pickup pocket and the pickup itself, the distance between the strings and the edge of the fretboard, the quality of the fret dressing on the ends, and the polish on the frets, every little detail like that. And I can see this stuff up close. And probably the biggest factor that I look at is the quality of the finish. Everything about that guitar was perfect. I was amazed at how good it was. And you know, when you're talking about a triple neck guitar that's built for a contest, it was clear to me that it was really important for Matt and Chris to do their A game on this guitar because their reputation would be staked on it. But every other guitar I looked at, and you can see them on the wall behind us as we're talking in this live stream, I looked at a lot of those guitars, and the quality is consistently perfect on every single instrument that's hanging on that wall, and all the other guitars. In fact, I was looking at, they had it's a Les Paul prototype that they're just kind of fooling around with, and I'm looking at this thing. It's only just the partially completed body. There's no finish. They haven't done any final sanding or anything on it, and the quality was impeccable. So, you know, I was just amazed, and I don't want to say I was pleasantly surprised, because I really wasn't surprised. Based on what I knew about Texas Toast and what other folks have said about them, it was what I expected and what I was really hoping to see, and I was not disappointed. But the reason I bring that up is because of the other thing that I discovered as I was walking around their shop and checking things out. The only people who work at Texas Toast Guitars are Matt and Chris. So when you buy a Texas Toast guitar, you know who made it. Matt and Chris. There are no other employees. There's no factory somewhere where they're outsourcing the construction of their guitars. They're not sending their orders over to China or South Korea or Vietnam. They're building them right there in that shop in Denver. And walking around the shop, you can tell it is a very busy shop. And in fact, I had to kind of smile because their shop is way bigger than mine. I mean, they've got 3 pin routers, they've got 2 band saws, they've got one of those great big fret radiusing belt sanders from Grizzly. They've got the thickness planers, the joiners, and a couple of different thickness sanders. I mean, and I'm probably missing a couple of tools. You know, they've got a CNC machine that they use for doing inlay, and it's just amazing what they've got. And the shop is, I mean, there's guitars being built everywhere, and it reminded me a lot of my shop, only on a much bigger scale. You know, there are times when I am working in my shop and I think, okay, I got to stop and I've got to clean this mess up. This is getting ridiculous. And I'll spend 2 days rearranging and trying to straighten things out. But then ultimately what I do is I just give up because there's no point. It's going to get messed up in a couple of days. And as I had mentioned to both Matt and Chris, I kind of laugh at guys who have these sterile workshops that look like a emergency room, operating room. My shop is never going to look like that, and I don't think Texas Toast is ever going to look like that. But that's because so much work is being done, and that's kind of the point. But to bring this all to fruition, and so that you can understand where I'm coming from with my bag of salad analogy, when you buy a Texas Toast guitar, you know who built it, and you know where, and you know when. And when you're spending your hard-earned money for what could be described as a bespoke guitar, I'm using air quotes, I hate doing that, but it works in this instance. You expect not only extremely high quality, but it would be nice to know who the craftsmen were that built it, because that adds value in your mind to that guitar that you purchased. And in a day and age where we simply can't know who's making the stuff that we buy, it's nice to know that when you buy a guitar like a Texas Toast guitar, or even a Highline Guitars guitar, you know who made it. I made the Highline guitar. Matt and Chris made the Texas Toast guitar. And it's always going to be that way. And you know, if you're a paying customer, you can email us, you can you can even talk to us on the phone if you're buying a guitar, and you can actually talk to us. And in the case of Texas Toast, you can meet them if you take one of their classes. I'll post a link down to their website in the description below, and you can check out the classes that they offer, because they offer a bunch of classes on guitar building, and you can take one of those classes and you're going to be learning from Matt and Chris. They're going to teach you. So that's another way that you can actually establish a relationship with the people who are making the guitars that have the Texas Toast brand on them. They're also going to be, or they are, teaching a class on amp building, which for me is really tempting. I've always wanted to build an amp, but I've never had the guts to do it because of the complexity. But I think that might be something I may consider down the road. At any rate, the whole point of this is that if you're going to spend the money, you know, why would you spend $3,000, $5,000, or $10,000 on a custom shop guitar that's made who knows where by who knows who, when you can spend a little bit less, like at Texas Toast, depending, of course, on the guitar you're having them build, and you know who made it, and you know where it was made and when it was made. And that's something that I think builds value into a guitar purchase like that. So if you're looking to buy that dream guitar that you've always wanted, you really need to look at the people that are making the guitar, because that's really, I think, what builds the value into that price that you pay. It's not just the wood, it's not the components, it's not the finish that was on it, or that was put on it. A big part of it is knowing the backstory. Who put their hands on this guitar? And in the case of Texas Toast, it's 2 pairs of hands. That's what does all the work. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I know it's a bit talky, but hey, you know, sometimes they've got to be that way. Sometimes I want to stress a point that I think is really important to make. And I think that the point of knowing who's building your guitar is really important. In fact, I may do a t-shirt that says Highline Guitars, who's making your guitar? That might be something to consider. At any rate, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. That always helps this channel. Tells YouTube that you like the video, and they'll recommend it to other people with similar interests, and we can grow this community. And if you don't subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and that way when I post future videos, they'll show up in your YouTube home screen. And if you want to show more support for my channel, you can visit Highline Guitars merch store or my eGuitars website. And any purchase you make on those sites is going to help support this channel so that I can keep building these guitars, making the videos, and then sharing my knowledge and experience with you. And if you want to chip in a few bucks and just want to keep it simple, you can click the thanks button down below. And I'll let you know a little secret. If you've got a question you really want me to answer, include a tip, and I guarantee I'll answer it. So, as always, until the next episode, take care, stay safe, and I'll hope you be back for more guitar building videos.